It's time for Recipe of the Day. Back on November 10th, I told you how to glaze a ham perfectly, and now I have a delicious glaze for you to try. This is a pineapple glaze. It is sweet and it has those like really warm spices, cinnamon, cloves, and it's just delicious with the ham. So this is for any kind of ham you have, boneless, bone-in, spiral cut. You can use it. The amount is for like a 5 to 7 pound ham. If you've got a bigger ham, a little bit bigger is going to be fine. If it's a lot bigger, you might want to double the recipe. If it's a lot smaller, I wouldn't necessarily make less because you could just keep adding more on top. Now I'll say this recipe uses chopped pineapple. You can use fresh chopped pineapple, 1.5 cups of it, or you could use frozen pineapple chunks that you thaw first, or you can use canned pineapple, in which case you'll need a 20-ounce can of the chunks, and then you'll use the liquid from that can in place of the pineapple juice that the recipe calls for. If you're using the fresh or frozen, you need to also get some pineapple juice. Now, the question I know you might be asking is how you're going to put this chunky pineapple glaze on the ham and not have it fall off. It just kind of works though. You pile a little bit on the first time that you brush the ham, pile some of the pineapple on top, and it starts to kind of caramelize on there. And then next time you add a little bit more, you kind of smoosh it on there and it just starts to stay. And in the end, it's beautiful. Look at the picture for this recipe if you haven't seen it already. It really is stunning. The ham looks gorgeous and it's got all this like glazed brown pineapple over it. Really nice. You can also stud the ham with maraschino cherries, which is quite traditional for pineapple ham. I didn't do that here, so that's not in this recipe, but that is something that you can do. If you do that, the cherries that you use toothpicks to sort of stick into the ham, they will help hold some of the pineapple chunks as well. Okay, so to make this glaze, you're going to get out a medium saucepan and you're going to combine that pineapple. It was 1.5 cups of chopped fresh or frozen that you've thawed, or a 20-ounce can drained, but save the juice, and a cup of pineapple juice or the liquid from that can, and a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground ginger, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, plus 1 cup of brown sugar. Stir that up and then set the saucepan over high heat and stir often while you bring it to a boil, then immediately reduce the heat down to low, and you're just going to cook it over low heat, stirring often until the pineapple is softened. If you were using the frozen or the canned, that's going to be just a moment, but if you had the fresh, it's going to take about 5 minutes. Then you want to get out a potato masher or a fork and just kind of mash it a little bit if you can, so that they're kind of in small pieces, it's smooshed up a little bit. That is what you're looking for. It's not going to like crush them completely. That also releases a bit of juice from them, and so it gets a little liquidier. So you're just going to keep cooking that on low, stirring occasionally until the liquid is a thick syrup. It's about 5 more minutes. Then take that off the heat and stir in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter just until it melts. You don't have to add the butter. I just find it rounds the flavor out really nicely, adds some nice richness to the sauce. Now, like I said, I've already told you how to glaze a ham perfectly. That was back on November 10th. You can go listen to that episode, November 10th of 2024. But I'll just tell you quickly here, you're going to get your ham, you're going to put it in a roasting pan, you're going to put some water in the bottom of that pan, and that is because the glaze has so much sugar in it that when it drips down off the ham and hits your pan, it's going to burn down there, and you do not want that. So put the water in the pan, and then you're baking your ham at 300 degrees Fahrenheit until it gets to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And when it gets there, you take it out and you're going to brush the ham with about 1/5 of that pineapple liquid and about 1/5 of the pineapple chunks go on. And then that goes back in, and you keep doing that every like 10 or 15 minutes until the internal temperature of the ham has reached 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it's at 145 degrees Fahrenheit, you should have used almost all of your glaze. You should have like 1/5 of it left. Take the ham out and you transfer that to your like serving platter or big cutting board, and then brush it all over with the last bit of glaze and those last little bits of pineapple. Let it rest for 10 minutes before carving. You will have such a delicious, golden, gorgeous, tasty, sweet and salty ham. I cannot wait for you to try it. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is November 14th of 2024. The other place that you can get the link to this recipe is in our Facebook group. I post the links in that Facebook group every single day. So if you listen to this podcast on a podcast app, if you're on like Apple Podcasts or YouTube Music or Amazon Music, you're listening wherever you are and you want to find out what the recipe is, for sure you want to read it, you want to see it, head to the Facebook group and you will find the link there. It is a private group, so you have to become a member, but that means we know that there's nobody spammy in there, spamming us with all kinds of crazy things. I like to keep it that way. So join that Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/groups/recipeotd and I will see you there. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.